This meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. My name is Joe McGiverin. I chair the Finance Committee, Subcommittee for the Holyoke City Council. To my left is Peter Tallman, member of the committee. To my right, Mike Sullivan, member of the committee. At the moment, we are the three members of the committee. Mr. Leahy is currently working with a work commitment, but hopes to join us later. And Councilor Bartley is at a function where he hopes to join us in a little bit. But we're going to get the agenda rolling. This is a hybrid meeting. We have both people ourselves in person, and we have guests in person, and we also have guests via Zoom. It's a live meeting being telecast live and recorded. And with that in mind, the chair will entertain a motion for item number one.
Motion to take item number one off the table for discussion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to take item one off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item one is a petition for a new secondhand license at 50 Holyoke Street for GameStop number 4391. Off the table for discussion, I believe we have the manager, assistant manager of GameStop with us. He'll be joining us by Zoom momentarily.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, can we have your name? We'll use the address for the store, but can we have your name for the record?
My name is Devin Marr. I'm the assistant store leader.
Devin, how do you, M-A-R-R?
Yes, M-A-R-R.
Thank you. Devin, this is your request for a secondhand license. If you could just briefly run through what the purpose of the secondhand license would be at GameStop.
So part of how our company functions is based on taking in trades on video games and gaming accessories and systems that people no longer use and then reselling them. So it's basically just to continue fulfilling that part of our company.
Are they like trade-ins, or do you purchase them?
We do trade-ins as far as store credit goes. We also do cash following all of the Massachusetts pawn laws as well. Whatever options the guest intends to take is what we have available. So we do both.
And besides that, is there any other items that you would buy, sell, or trade for under this license?
We do also do a lot of technology as well, as far as taking in phones and tablets. Those we don't usually resell through our store. Those are mostly sold through our website. But outside of video game stuff specifically, that's the only other thing we've really been taking in over the past couple of years at least.
And Devin, this is listed as a new license, but is it because there's a new manager? Or is this the first time?
To be completely honest, I'm not sure what they needed to renew the license for. We've had the same district manager and regional manager for a few years. I don't know if there was an expiry date on the old one that they needed to fulfill, or if anything like that. I don't know if it could be something that's been updated through our company, as our company has been going through changes through its board of directors and stuff like that. So it might just be something that's been put in to be refreshed, or if they are making changes that haven't trickled down to us yet.
Okay, because unless there's changes, usually a license is just renewed without the city council approval. One more thing, most important. Are you aware, and can you explain to us how you handle any items that might be stolen items that are trying to be pawned off at GameStop with the people who are coming in?
Yeah, with all of the, we do follow all of the mass pawn laws, so anyone who does come in to trade anything in does have to have their ID information copied into our system. Anything that is reported as stolen, if we can get the right information, we usually will follow up with city police, have them file a police report, as well as if they can provide us enough information like the system serial number or exactly what it was, we can pull it down and make sure that it gets turned in correctly if everything matches up. We haven't had to do it too many times, just because in general, a lot of that stuff has to go through so many channels that it ends up not being an issue, at least for our store. But we have worked with Holyoke Police in the event that things are reported missing or stolen.
Thank you.
And when
Devin,
we sell serial numbers, we do usually have to take that info as well.
Thank you. Perfect. Very good answer. We appreciate it. Are there any questions by the committee? Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, thank you, Devin. That was one of my concerns. Did you keep some sort of a log on file that people come in with their ID and what they turn in?
Yes, all of the ID information for anything that's traded in goes right into our computer. It's held in our home offices and all of their servers. I don't know if there's a timetable on it, but I know that everything does get registered through our company directly. And every item that we take as far as like an actual console or a phone has any sort of IMEI or serial number logged in with that information. So if someone, say, traded in a PlayStation 4 and we got one reported, we would have every person who traded in every system with a serial number. So if someone reported a PlayStation stolen and they have the serial number still logged on a receipt or on the box, we would be able to match who traded it in with that serial number specifically.
Okay, and an individual, when they come to trade something in, a game or a movie or whatever, how do you pay? You pay them in cash or a check, or do they do that right away?
We do cash on site. We also do store credit if they want to do something as far as like trading in one game towards another. But cash is always an option that we have available. I don't believe we do anything outside of that. Like we can't do it to a debit card. We can't do it to like a tap to pay device as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the new secondhand license at 50 Holyoke Street for GameStop 4391.
Second.
Make a motion to approve, a motion has been made and seconded to approve a new license for GameStop for secondhand. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Devin, that's a 3-0 vote. We will recommend to the full city council next Tuesday. You do not have to be there. We will answer any questions that other city councilors have. And you might want to check with the city clerk's office a couple days, 2 or 3 days after the meeting of when you can pick up your license.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2.
Make a motion to take item number 2 off the table for discussion.
Motion made and seconded to take item 2 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have from MIFA, the Victory Theater Mural Project budget. It's a CPA grant for fiscal year 21, project funding with a recommendation from the CPA. Under discussion, we have with us Councilor Sullivan, who is our city councilor liaison to the CPA committee. And I noticed in the audience we have from MIFA our most beloved, Don Sanders. So if Councilor Sullivan, did you want to walk through us, what CPA is recommending here, and then certainly we'll welcome Don for his comments.
Well, why don't we start with Don, because
Sounds
we've
good.
seen this before, yeah.
Don, if you want to join us inside or at the standing outside, we'd love to hear from you. And when you get comfortable, just hit the button in the middle and a green light will go on.
Okay.
Thank you. If you could just, you've already made the presentation to CPA, the petition, so you know it inside out. I think we're looking for the nuts and bolts of what the request is for, and then we can ask some questions and go from there.
Great. Yes, I mean, this is a very exciting project. It basically is restoring the very famous murals that are on either side of the proscenium arch in the Victory Theater, which suffered a lot of damage, etc. We had them removed actually about 10 years ago, and with the idea that they would go back when they restored into the completed theater. An idea came up now maybe 2 years ago that in the interim, before the theater is fully restored, that the murals could be restored and put on public display for the enjoyment of the public in Holyoke and anyone who wants to see them. They're very famous murals, and we think it's a really great idea, and that's what this project is about. So we have put together a plan to do the restoration and to put them on a firm backing so that they can be exhibited. The idea is to put them in City Hall, in the ballroom at the moment. And when the theater is restored, they would be affixed. They would go back with a lot of ceremony on either side of the proscenium arch.
Anticipating some questions from the city council, when you say firm backing, how would you protect the mural that you would be
Right.
moving around?
Right. So we have really the best people, what can I say, in this business working with the mural restoration. We've had a slight change in the personnel. Vitek Kruta, who was going to be doing the actual painting restoration, sent me a note about 2 weeks ago saying that due to other obligations, he doesn't feel that he can actually have the time to do the project. So we're moving into his place the partner that was working with him to do the restoration, which is Evergreen Restoration. And VTech and Evergreen put together the plan for the restoration, so we have all confidence in the world that Evergreen will be able to do it very satisfactorily. So they're talking about various, again, I'm an appreciator, but they're talking about using an aluminum honeycomb mesh to put the murals on, which is apparently a very sophisticated material that's very sturdy and enables, they're very big murals. They're like 24 feet tall by about 10, 11, 12 feet wide. So they're going to be done in sections. They were painted in sections, and then they will be affixed to this material, or if that will be the one that they finally decide on once they see the condition of the murals. And that way they can be, the latest idea was to actually affix them up on the stage of the city ballroom, which has the height, and they can be put in an impermanent installation, in a very sturdy way and easily taken down with.
And the reason I ask is,
Yeah.
at the Holyoke Merry-Go-Round, many, many years ago, when the Steigers building, the Steigers store itself was closing, the stained glass window in the back, I think many of us Hoyokers remember, the stained glass window needed a home, and the Holyoke Merry-Go-Round was asked and gladly accepted that piece of our history. But we went to great lengths to protect it. So it's, although it stands in the merry-go-round, it's, it does take some thought and some money. I apologize, and then I'll turn the floor over. I didn't really read. I read the purpose of this, but the amount of the grant the CPA has approved is $107,000, and that would be $95,000 Holyoke Community Preservation Act.
Right.
Knowing that the National Trust Woods Mitchell grant you've already received $4,500, and there are private donations earmarked for this of $7,000 is what's in front of me.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions from the committee or thoughts? Councilor Sullivan as the liaison, if we could.
Let Peter go.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I just wanted to state something, and I know at the 10 seconds ago you spoke, but if you bring the mic a little bit closer to you and speak into it, so the people at home can hear you.
Of course.
They're always calling me, you make sure they speak into them, and maybe bring it down a little bit so they hear you good.
I got too comfortable.
Yeah, but it's sometimes people don't realize it, they can't hear it at home. On the bottom, on the expenses, Don, is some of that still, it says the removal and preservation is complete. So does that mean that is done? Taking them out of there, or?
Yes, that was done. They've been in storage.
A while ago, in storage? Okay. And the other parts are all, is that something that's already been done too?
No,
or?
that's all what's going to happen.
Okay, so the evaluation, materials,
Correct.
the labor.
Correct.
And then that's ongoing. In a time frame, is there, you have a set time to, when's it going to start and finish?
We were ready to go, which, and we were awaiting when VTech really was going to be setting the schedule. So when we heard, as I say, about 2 weeks ago, that VTech wasn't going to be able to do it, I approached Evergreen, and they're all set to do it. They're coming to do their kind of think about it, et cetera, and look-see. They've been here before, but they're coming on October 16th. So I would assume that we would be getting to work on them, I hope, by the end of October, the beginning of November. And, it should be a fairly straightforward process, but these murals they're painted with oil, and just as an aside, Evergreen restorers, they're major people who are going to be working on these, so I'm kind of very proud of this, are in Italy at the moment. They've been working in the Sistine Chapel. And so that's the kind of skill that we've got working on it. And they and VTech, of course, are going to work very well together. So when they take them out, when they unroll them, they've been rolled up since they were taken down. They will be able to assess how much time it's going to take. They have to get acids out of the materials, et cetera. Actually, we're hoping to make that a kind of, what's the right word? If not available to the public, at least be doing filming of it so it becomes a kind of, a documentary on the murals, the Victory Theater murals in Holyoke.
Well, that's one thing. I'm glad you talked about the role. I'm sure so people understand at home. I'm thinking you got these big things and they're squares and they're 20, would you say 20-something feet tall, so that they're rolled up.
Yeah.
Bring them here to do them, or are they going to do them somewhere else?
Well, we're going to do them. We're working on that now.
Okay.
Where the actual place is going to be. We may. It has to be obviously fortunately, Holyoke has no shortage of large empty spaces.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. And when they do those, trying to think what I want to say with them rolled up, do they bring them to where they're going to do them, and then because how many are there altogether?
So there are I believe altogether with the two, there are something like 8 panels, 8 sections.
8 sections.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, well, the plan that was put together was that they were going to be done in their sections, so that the sections, when they're finished and affixed, they were painted in sections. We have wonderful photographs of Vincent Miragliotti, who is the painter, painting them on the floor of the theater. His studios were in Grand Central Station, and he did the majority of them up there, brought them up on a train, and then went into the theater and did the final work on the floor before affixing them to the walls. So we will be following where the sections, just the way he sectioned them. So that makes them fairly portable to be then taken apart to be brought to the first City Hall and then eventually to the Victory.
Okay, one last question, and because we're all about finances here, right?
Sure.
A lot of these are estimates, so if it goes over the cost or if it goes under the cost, what happens to the money, and how do you rectify that?
We raise the additional money, basically, I feel pretty confident. VTech and Evergreen created this budget, and they figured that's what it would cost. So unless there's something very unforeseen, we expected to be coming at this budget. If as we all know, doing any construction, if something changes, we'll find the money.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilor Solomon.
Yep. So first, I'd like to say, once again, the CPA committee did a fantastic job of vetting this out. The biggest concern with the CPA was if the Victory Theater project was not to go forward, and that we had $95,000 in city money into the project, that the murals wouldn't be able to just be auctioned off or moved somewhere outside the city. So they did a great job and worked with the MIFA people and came up with what I think is a wonderful solution to the problem, in that those would be here and would remain property of the city. So
A permanent loan.
For me, that was the biggest stumbling block here, not to invest something, and these murals are a very historic and significant, they would be a significant reminder of the Victory Theater and its history and heritage here in Holyoke, if God forbid, the rest should fail, after all that's gone into it, but that we would still keep possession of them.
Yes.
And that was key to the committee. It was very well vetted, and I can't say enough, the CPA committee did a tremendous job there, working with the MIFA people.
Excellent.
I'd like to also take this opportunity, the idea was first brought to me, and I believe part of the idea came from Mr. Sullivan, and I thought it was a great idea, and and we have had a great time thinking that way, because it's virtually, the murals are really the only, shall we say, portable parts of the theater. And so to have those, and I think it'll be very exciting for people to see them. And, I'd like to thank Councilor Sullivan and the committee for the hard work that they've done.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion that is received and complied with?
Motion made.
Budget,
We have to adopt it because
Adopt
it's a CPA grant. I was a little, when I first read it, because it came in this form, I think sometimes it comes under city councilors, but it's more of a grant, so this is fine. But it's from the CPA committee in the form of a grant.
So
that
accept
we're-
the,
Motion made second that we
accept the
accept
grant?
and adopt the CPA
CPA
recommendation
grant.
of the $95,000 with restrictions and everything that goes along with the contract and/or whatever else CPA does.
95.5.
Okay. On
95,
that motion,
yeah.
all those in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Passes 3-0. Don, we'll be recommending this to the full city council on Tuesday. You do not have to come, you're always welcome, but, you can also watch us on Zoom, and if necessary, can answer questions through Zoom. I think we have the answers to any anticipated
Okay.
questions.
Well, you know where to find me if you have any other questions. But this is a very exciting moment, and thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank
all
you.
you do. I guess want to do, Maria, if she's here?
Yeah.
Item 6.
Sure.
I could suspend the rules and take out of order item number 6.
Second.
Motion made second that we suspend the rules and take out of order item number 6. Introduced under the chair of the Finance Committee that in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accepts the provisions of fiscal year 2022 State Plan for Library Services and Technology, LSTA, ARPA, funding for $50,000, no match, grant and authorize the establishment of fund and or other method appropriate for the accounting of receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with the administration of said grant. The motion was to take this off the table for discussion. We have in person the director of our Holyoke Public Library, Maria Pagan, well known to not just everybody in City Hall, but I think everybody in the city.
Thank you.
And because, Maria, you are present this evening with us, we were not, no problems with Zoom, but because you're present, we'd like to let you go first so you can feel free to stay or leave.
Thank you.
So I think you know the drill. Can you tell us about this grant, what you're going to do with it, and if there's any attachments or things we need to know?
Yes, the grant is from the American Rescue Plan monies that the Board of Library Commissioners received. And we got 2 grants from them. One was for hotspots, so we were able to get 20 hotspots that we're lending out. And that's a total of over $10,000. And they pay for the monthly fees and for the hotspots. So it's free to us in that sense. So the public who needs to have Wi-Fi, internet access at home will be able to come to the library and borrow one of those devices so they can have internet for 1 week at a time. And the second grant that they gave us is the $50,000 is to be able to hire a social worker. We all know the issues that the city of Holyoke have, and what better way to continue serving the community than also provide some social work services at the library, because we can provide them with information But once they leave the library, they can just ignore it or forget about it. But if we have a social worker that can probably do most of the walk for them, guiding them and really making the appointments at the time that they need the assistant, we'll be able to do it from the library. So that's going to be another service that we'll be able to provide.
Well said and well spoken. One of the areas we always like to talk about is when a grant is used to, you're creating a new position, okay? And whether is it a position that's going to become part of your budget in the future?
Not for the city budget, no. It will
Okay.
not be part of the city budget. I have here the award letter from the Board of Library Commissioners, which I believe I sent to everybody, and in the back is the email that I sent to all of you.
Yes. Yes, we do have that, but thank you for copies.
That gives some information. The social worker will not become part of our city budget positions. It would be separate. It would continue to be with grants. We'll continue applying for grants for it. We're working with Healing Coalition, and they're also going to be able to help us in setting up the programs and helping the people. So we have, I think, a good partnership with the coalition to have this up and running. Hopefully, I'm going to ask for the Community Foundation of Western Mass for also some more fundings to complement this one. The one for the Board of Library Commissioners is to pay the social worker. I'm going to ask for them for the programs. Monies for the programs, but that's going to be all grants. It's not going to be city money.
And Maria, if I could just back up, thank you. But for the ARPA grant, this came through the state?
Through the Board of Library Commissioners. The Institution of Museum and Library Services got the money, distributed to the agencies of the state that deals with libraries, in our case, the Board of Library Commissioners. And from there, they determined the 20 most affected communities in the state that were affected by COVID, Holyoke being one of them. That's why we were able to get this grant.
Okay. And the reason I ask about creating a new position is, and your answer is perfect, but there are, and it's not a deal breaker for I don't think for something like this, but there are situations where, positions are created, and when the grants dry up, the city all of a sudden owns unemployment insurance. And because we're self-funded, it's just something that we need to know.
Yeah, no, this one, we'll try to run with it.
Okay.
We'll be able to, I'm pretty sure that if we continue doing good with the Board of Library Commissioners, and we still qualify for the library state aid, I'm pretty sure that in the future, if we need to, we'll probably use the state aid monies for the libraries to help us defray some of the costs.
Have you checked with the law department and the auditor? I know the grant came through and the auditor is aware of the grant. Have they given you any feedback?
Nope, they just told me that it has to go through the city council for acceptance of the money. And then there's the contract that because it's state monies coming to the city for the library, it has to be signed by somebody from the city. So that's why the procedure that you have to accept the money
Yes.
coming in and then signing the contract.
Yes, all grants, just, most grants, that's the proper procedure, because we're actually, the mayor and the city council are appropriating the grant to you to spend it for purposes as stated, and which is fine. It's just the question of when it's the hiring of, or even if it's not the creation within the city budget, you are hiring a person a position that is not, part of the budget, and there are sometimes legal, not consequences, legal connections that you have to watch out for.
Yeah, I think it's more going to be like contracting with a social worker more than hiring
Yeah.
the social worker, because a contract has a beginning and an end. So that's why, that's how we're going to do it with a contract.
See, now you're speaking like a lawyer. I like that.
I like that.
Any questions from the committee?
She just-
Counselor Sullivan?
She just saved me from my only question.
Okay. Perfect.
Joe, just said.
I just asked it the wrong way. You know, Maria gave us the right answer. Counselor Tomlin?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for Mariana explaining that to us. And like you said, we're concerned about new hires, and I think you explained it well about the contract, because, you know, if they come in for 6 months and they get, you know, 20,000, 25,000, then they come in for another 6. Could you explain a little bit more again about the hotspots and how do people access that? Is it like a device they can bring?
Yeah, it's a little device.
Okay.
Through T-Mobile.
Okay.
They're the ones that are supplying the service. And you just connect your device to that hotspot and put in the password, and it's secured. It's not like a free that is not secured. This one will be secured.
It is secure, okay.
Yeah, it's just that it's Wi-Fi instead of being connected
Okay.
through cable.
Yeah. Okay, so is that something they take out, they do it at the library, or they take it out of the library?
Yeah, they go to the library with a Holyoke library card. They say, I would like to check out the internet, the Wi-Fi, and we give them the little device in the pouch with the adapter.
Right.
So they can charge the charger, and they can use it. And I believe we have it set up for up to 5 devices can log in at the same time with the same device without having any stumbling or nothing. It will be just all secured and running just fine.
Okay, and then they bring it back after a
And
period of
then-
time?
Yep, and then after the week, just like a book,
Okay,
it's over, you bring it back, you give at least 1 week, and then you can check it out again. It's good for people that are going to travel. and
Right.
They, like if you have to go for a meeting and do a presentation, that way you have a secure internet. You're sure that you're gonna have an internet with you. One thing that we learned through COVID last year was that the kids went home with a tablet to do their schooling, but parents were not allowed to use those computers. So if they didn't have a computer, and many didn't have a reliable access to the internet,
right.
so that was also another issue. So that's why the hotspot, this is a reliable hotspot that you'll be able to have access to the internet. And then one of the things that not having a computer while the kids were doing their homework, parents couldn't find for jobs, so I applied for another social services because everything went online. They were not able to do it unless they had a reliable phone that they could work from, or if they were lucky to have also a computer. So thanks to the CARES Act and Mayor Murphy and all of you that approve the grants, we will also be lending out laptops.
Oh, that's
So
great.
it's going to be laptops and the hotspots. So now people will be able to do their work, their studies, while their kids, God forbid, that we have to go back to a lockdown. They're also going to be able to do telehealth. They'll be able to get online courses that we also offer for free. So it's another way of helping people that otherwise would not.
Would be able to access it. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept the provisions of the State Plan for Library Services Technology, APR, ARP 60,000 grant?
It's 50.
Oh, 50,000
50,
grant,
yep.
okay. $50,000 grant, no match.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept the grant, as just said, State Plan for Library Services Technology, and to make the recommendation to the full city council next Tuesday that we do accept this and allow the library to spend it and to certainly to manage it, you know, as goes with any grant. Maria, one of the things I know Councilor Bartley's always asked is that department heads give us a report back when the grant dries up as to how it went, just so and usually that's very positive feedback, and we just like to hear about it.
Yeah, we will, because we have to do the report for the state too, so you'll get the same report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you know, and have an idea by when the Board of Library, because I have to let them know that this is still in process, when to expect the signed contract?
The grant itself, the grant, what we vote on, allowing it, the vote will take place this coming Tuesday.
Okay,
It then is processed through where, even though the mayor has already signed off on it once, the mayor has to sign off on the city council vote.
okay,
I mean, usually that's by the end of next week, okay, if everything goes well. So if you contact Brenna Murphy-McGee, maybe a couple days after our meeting, she can tell you, the status and when to expect the vote.
well,
But,
not the vote, but when the signed contract is gonna go to the Board of Library Commissioners, because they're not gonna send the money until they have the contract, from.
okay, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing the mayor's got to sign the contract and the auditor's got to approve it. Is our city auditor be with us?
Yeah, she's here.
Yes, that's correct, Joe.
Tanya Dojek, city auditor, is with us via Zoom. Tanya, did you hear Maria's question about the contract being signed?
I did, and as soon as it's authorized, I'll have the mayor sign it, and then we can send back the originals. And actually, I'll send them to Maria for her to send.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Let me know.
Tanya. Okay, Maria,
Welcome.
on the vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything you do for the library, but for the city.
Well, it's always a pleasure to see you all.
Yeah, good seeing you. Okay, motion to take item number 3?
Three.
Table, for discussion.
Motion made second to take item 3 off the table for discussion. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? That there is and hereby appropriated by transfer to fiscal year 2022, $125,000 as follows. Out of the police department budget reserves line item, $60,000. Same budget, court overtime, I believe, $40,000. E911 dispatcher, $2,000. Patrolman, $20,000. Lieutenant, $3,000. The total is $125,000. The request is to transfer it into the overtime account, the full $125,000. It's been taken off the table for discussion from the police department. I see we have Chief Pratt. And Chief, welcome. I know you sent us a communication explaining this, and just so everybody understands, the transfer first goes from you, from any department head, but to the mayor. And at this point, Mayor Murphy has signed off on the request, and now it's in front of us for city council approval. Could you walk us through the reasons for this request?
Sure. We looked at our budget. As you know, we started the year with $250,000 in the overtime account. We typically average around $38,000 is the average per pay period. We were doing a little below that, and then we had some spikes, which brought us back to that. When we looked at the budget, we tried to look into areas where we could move the money that's not being utilized for different reasons. The reserve money, currently, due to the new Police Reform Act, our reserve officers that we hire are unable to work until they're completely trained. That's a much more lengthy process than it used to be. And for all intents and purposes, the reserves will not be working anytime soon until they figure that out. Some of that is still being worked out by the Post Commission. So that's where we took $60,000 from. The court time, Joe, you know as well as anyone, court is way down. It started to come back a little, but we had some more delays with what happened down in Springfield and the grand jury location as well. But we haven't been doing very much in the court. So I went back pre-COVID, looked at sort of the average and figured out a safe amount to take where if court miraculously started full swing tomorrow, we would have enough to get through the rest of the year. And we'll continue to monitor that. The other line items are through vacancies or grant reimbursement. The patrolmen, the lieutenants, and the dispatch to round out the 125. we took 40,000 from court.
And the surplus in the dispatchers, is that because of the reimbursable grant that pays off, that you can draw from, but we have to put it in the budget?
No, that was a very small amount, 2,000. That was just from a vacancy that we had temporarily that created that little bit of extra in that account.
Chief, on the reserves, understood, but reserves are paid per diem. When will the new reserves be available to work?
It's complicated, Joe, with the new police reform. Reserve officers, the ones we currently have, we're going to send to the police academy full-time before they ever become reserves. We're going to have to look and see what comes out of the commission as far as reserves. I don't believe there will be reserve officers going forward from what we're hearing so far. We will have reserve officers that we will need to hire in order to hire them full-time. We're leaving that number a little lower right now. I know we had just passed something to raise that up to 35 before the changes came with the police reform. I'd like to keep that in place just for now, at least until we figure this all out. And we've been hiring a smaller number just to have a pool to hire full-time. And that's where we're at currently. This group that's going to go to the academy in October will deplete our reserve force. We'll have to hire again.
Okay. And I concur with you on the court overtime, being that the Commonwealth across the state is just very slowly getting back into jury trials. And most of our officers testify in, Springfield Superior Court and Holyoke District Court. Holyoke District Court is at a snail pace. And with what's happening with Springfield and Superior Court, it's all but shut down again in terms of jury trials, and I understand that. I think there's a floodgate coming, though, because there's a lot of cases backlogged, and no one knows what's going to happen, if they're going to get plead out or if there are going to be more jury trials up and coming, but I do see your logic there. Chief, one last question for me, and I'll pass the baton here, but $38,000 a pay period, and you started with 150. What's our annual average for this overtime account?
38,000.
No, for the total year. We've been running around 400,000.
Oh, how much for the whole year?
Yeah.
I believe the 5-year average is like 1.1 million, but 38,000 will bring us in around 988 to $1 million.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Yep. Councilor Sullivan.
Yep. Thank you, Chief. I've heard from several members of the reserves, and I understand how the auxiliary was brought in there also, but that they still haven't been paid. And it seems to me probably about 6 or 8 months ago, we had that issue, and it was being taken care of, and we were assured that everyone was going to be paid and it wouldn't be an issue going forward. Yet I'm still hearing from several that they have not been paid, but now we're transferring money out of the account. Can you tell us what's going on there?
You're talking about two completely different things. The money you're talking about is road job money.
No.
That would not be paid out of the reserve account. Those I do know, because I just attended a meeting with the auxiliaries, that quite a good portion just got paid. I think it was last Sunday they got their checks, so it's slowly working its way. With the new system we have in place, we haven't had any issues, and the auxiliary officers are actually given an opportunity to, through the new roll call system, to get paid right away. They pay a little percentage to the company, and then they get paid right away. So a lot of this is kind of clearing itself up. I know what you're talking about, the money that's still outstanding. and people are still waiting. I realize that. We are working hard to get everyone paid. Obviously, we want them to get paid. But it is a work in progress, but it's not, it's from the old system, not the new system. The new system is functioning pretty well.
I understand that, but I believe we transferred money at that time also to make that account whole, so these people would be paid.
Transferred the money to where? To the overtime, to the road job account? I don't ever remember that, but if it was before my time. I don't really recall that. I could look into it for sure.
Okay, I'd appreciate that if we could find out before Tuesday.
Okay, sure.
Any further questions? Counselor Tomlin?
Yeah, thanks, Chief, for coming down. The question I have is on the letter sent to Mayor Murphy. You had 120,000 in that overtime account. Is it down to nothing now, or is there anything in there right now?
So where we're at is, and this was part of the, the new, I'm trying to figure this out, the new system here of the money going, the transfers to the mayor and then to the city council and back. So I kind of calculated roughly that I need about 3 pay periods left when I go to the mayor. I went to the mayor on the August 26th.
Right.
Got it on the meeting for the 7th, and I'm glad I did because, as you know, we had no meeting on the 21st, which pushed me to the upcoming meeting. By the time we go to that meeting, we have a pay period we're waiting on now. I have about 45,000 left. I'm hoping that we have maybe 10 left by the time we go to that meeting.
Okay, so you just about depleted that account by the time we vote on it and get it through.
Yeah. I'm looking ahead too already, and I kind of looking how it lines up, and you could probably tell me better. I was going to ask you tonight. It looks like we're going to run into the same problem with the general election being on what would have been a meeting. So I kind of anticipate that I'm going to be back doing this exact same thing very quickly in order not to, I'm not real comfortable where I'm at right now, being down to what I consider 1 pay period. If I look back, we did have a pay period that hit, 50,000 due to a homicide and some shootings. So I'm, it's not a comfortable position to be in, sitting here waiting and not knowing what's going to happen, and hope that we have enough money to do it. So I'm trying to figure out the timing of all this. I know it's new for all of us, and so we're just doing our best to try to make sure we get in to see you in a timely manner so that we can have these discussions and move the money we need to move.
Yeah, in November 2nd election, that's coming up real quick. It's like 4 weeks from Tuesday. So, and there won't be a meeting that week unless we have to have a special meeting. I'm sure that could be called out. And I don't have my budget. I wish I had brought my budget book. I got to learn to do that. What was the amount that was awarded for overtime total for the police department?
250,000 at the beginning of the fiscal.
So that was July, as of July 1st, you started with 250.
Correct.
And that's normally more than that. I mean, but that's,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we had cut
We
that.
requested 450.
Right.
As we learn, we'll all learn together here with this, with the meetings and everything, and the summer session and how that works. I'm sure next year we can kind of hopefully tweak that so that we're not in this situation.
Yeah, and I know you're new at this, and I know it's difficult because now you're trying to figure out timing and everything. And I see this time we were lucky enough to be able to take it from within your budget. Now, in the future, have you already planned ahead to see where there could be some leftover money in your budget to do this again if you have to, like within a month?
Yeah, 100%. We're already looking at it, yeah, our goal is not to come back. Our goal is to continue to use the grant funding and
Right.
the extra accounts if there is money in the account anywhere. The court is a good example. If court stays on the pace they're on, we're watching that, and I can continue to squeeze there a little. I got to be careful. I got to just make sure that if the court all of a sudden starts a boom,
Then you
that
got
we're ready for that. I think I've calculated that appropriately. I think I'm trying to be conservative as well, just to make sure that we are ready for that. And then as it goes forward, I can almost look to see what now I can draw again. That's the plan.
Right, and the reserve officers, I didn't see the money there because you're not really utilizing those until they go to the academy. Is that how that works? That money in that account?
Yeah, it's really, so you can all understand it. So basically, reserve officers are going to be hired on paper, and we're not going to be able to let them work the way we used to, because there is no longer a reserve academy that satisfies the new police reform bill.
Okay.
Basically, it's not enough time. They're focused now on trying to take people that were reserve officers and make them, for lack of a better word, whole. And they don't, to my knowledge, I don't know what the plan is to train future reserve officers. They haven't really put out guidance. There is an academy that's run in like the Worcester area that's nights and weekends, full-time academy, nights and weekends. But I don't know if that's really that helpful. I don't know too many people that would be reserves that would be able to possibly do that. But
okay.
It's possible. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your help with that.
Absolutely.
Any further questions from the committee? Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer of $125,000 from the various accounts to police overtime.
Second.
Motion made second to approve the transfer from the various accounts to the police overtime, total $125,000. On that motion, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Okay, Chief, I think you're up to date with us, but that's 3-0. We'll recommend it to the full city council on Tuesday. Always welcome to join us, but not necessary. And we thank you for your presence. I do have to note with your Zoom background, it looks like you're sitting on top of the merry-go-round. Is there any alarm going off?
Not tonight.
Okay, thank you.
You're good.
All
Thank
set, Chief, thank you. That's all you have, right?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
that's it. Thank you.
Chief. Thanks, Chief.
Oh,
Make a motion to take up item number 4 off the table for discussion.
Motion made and seconded to take item 4 off the table for discussion. Item 4, introduced by the Chair of the Finance, that there being hereby is appropriated by transfer fiscal year 2022. The same thing can't read the one that we just did. I apologize. Item 4 is Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A. The City Council hereby accepts the provisions of the ARSON Watch Reward Program, $1,000 no match, grant and authorize establishment of fund and other method appropriate for the accounting of receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with the administration of said grant. It's off the table for discussion. With us this evening is Chief Preskopowski via Zoom. Chief, welcome.
Thank you.
Would you like to walk us through the grant?
Sure. This is a pretty simple one. The grant is for $1,000 with no match. This program is a statewide program that was administered locally by Lieutenant Maria Belcher in the public schools and the parochial schools. It was a statewide contest, fire safety poster contest, which we thankfully had one student from Blessed Sacrament School, Rafael Rivera, who came in 3rd place statewide in the poster contest. And with that, the Hoyoke Fire Department was awarded $1,000 for being the host community from that student. So we're excited to receive this money. We're gonna, if voted on, we're gonna put this into the fire prevention training and education account. So fire inspectors and Maria doing her fire safety education can get some money to do certain programs within the schools.
I think we all have said it and continue to say it. You know, Lieutenant Belcher is incredible. I went to the birthday party of the Children's Museum a couple of Saturdays ago, and Lieutenant Belcher and other members of the fire department were there distributing books and things to all the children. It was nice to see, as always.
Yeah. She is such a great asset to the city and to the department. I can't say enough about the work that she does. People see it in the community, and I get nothing but accolades about the work that she does. And I thank you for the nice things that you say about her, Joe, and to the committee. She deserves everything that everyone says about her.
Is there any questions or comments from the committee? If not, Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve accept the $1,000 Arson Watch Reward Program.
Second?
Motion made and second that we approve the acceptance of the $1,000 with no match Arson Watch Reward Program. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Chief, that passed 3-0. I believe you're with us on item 5 too?
Correct.
Motion to take item number 5 off the table for discussion.
Motion made and second to take item number 5 off the table for discussion. Item 5, in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accepts the provisions of the SFY 2021 Commonwealth Security Trust Fund, $11,720 with no match, authorize the establishment of fund and other method appropriate for the accounting of the receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with the administration of said grant. This is off the table for discussion. Chief, could you run us through this one, please?
Sure. This is the Commonwealth Security Trust Fund grant. The department was awarded $11,720. What we did with this grant was we did a needs assessment for our equipment. We went through some formulas and some criteria that we looked at when we looked at our equipment. We noticed that we had some equipment that was being used from the late 1980s, and it had to do with ice rescue equipment and the boards that we use to get out onto the ice to make rescues. So what we want to do with this money is to purchase 2 ice rescue sleds. One will be positioned downtown at headquarters, and one will be positioned at Station 3 on Northampton Street, so we can deploy a sled to any of the water sources in the city in a timely fashion. This grant also funds some rescue suits that the firefighters wear when they go onto the ice or into the cold water. Keeps them dry and keeps them warm while they're attempting to make these rescues. These sleds come in at $4,995 a piece for a total of $9,990. And the ice rescue suits that the firefighters wear are $865 a piece for a total of $1,730, which brings us to the grand total of $11,720.
Chief, you said one will be at headquarters and the other one will be where?
At Station 3 on Northampton Street.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions from the committee? The chair welcomes City Councilor Bartley, also a member of our Finance Committee.
Joe.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah. Thanks, Chief, for coming down on this issue. You said these are for rescues on ice, in the river or wherever?
Correct. The river, reservoirs, any kind of
Reservoirs.
water source, lakes within the city. These sleds you can walk them out onto the ice and they keep the rescuer afloat. And then when we get out to the person that needs assistance, we can get them onto the sled and get them back onto shore. They're a vital piece of equipment when it comes to ice rescue. The boards that we're using now, again, were purchased in the late 1980s and they serve their purpose. They're just getting old and they need to be replaced.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion?
I make a motion to accept the Commonwealth Security Trust Fund grant, no match, $11,720.
Second?
Motion made and second to accept this grant of $11,000 $720 with no match, known as the Commonwealth Security Trust Fund. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. Thank you, Chief. I think that's it for you.
Thanks,
Okay,
Chief.
thank you.
We appreciate it. We've already done item number 6 with Maria Bacan, so we're heading towards item number 7.
Motion to take item number 7 off the table for discussion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to take item number 7 off the table for discussion. Under the Finance Chair's name, that's a grant in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A. The City Council accepts the provisions of the fiscal 2022 CRCC PVPC CSO $745,000 no match grant authorizing the establishment of fund and/or other method appropriate for the accounting of the receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with said grant. Invited and with us is our Superintendent of the DPW, Mike McManus. This is off the table for discussion. Mike, would you like to walk us through it?
Sure. So this grant is the City of Holyoke's portion of the Connecticut River Cleanup Committee funding for fiscal year 22. It's funding that the state is given to the Connecticut River Cleanup Committee to assist with the reduction of combined sewer overflows to the Connecticut River. We share this money with the cities of Chicopee and Springfield. We've been working hard to chip away at our CSO problem in the city using funds like this, like the Connecticut River Cleanup, so that it doesn't affect the ratepayers as much. What we plan to do is use these funds for 3 projects. There's the Springdale Pond Drain Separation Project, the ongoing Jackson Street Sewer Separation Project, and furthering the River Terrace Sewer Separation Study and preliminary design. Those 3 sewer separation projects were identified in the long-term control plan. So we're able to continue moving forward on those and using grant money to get some of the work done. And as you said, it's a no match grant.
Mike, on Jackson Street, have we already bonded for that?
No, the bonding is done when the project is complete. So we know exactly how much the city spent on the project, if there are any change orders or work that can be eliminated to reduce the cost. And at that time, that's when the dollar amount for what we have to bond is set.
Is there any further discussion from the committee? Councilor Sullivan.
Mike, some of this money is going to be used for the study for the River Terrace, next in line for the CSO project.
Correct.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Just what is the estimated cost for the entire amount of that portion, the next portion?
Oh, I don't have the construction cost for sewer separation. Right now, we're chipping away at the design portion. So we used last year's Connecticut River cleanup money to fund the preliminary design, which included a survey and conceptual drawings. It also had some borings to kind of set the framework for what would need to be done for sewer separation. This next phase, we would be doing smoke testing, dye testing, some building inspections to verify the sewer pipe elevation where it leaves the house, and also the potential for some pumps or private inflow, which is the inflow is what causes the sewer overflows. I don't have the cost, the estimated cost of construction of the River Terrace project at my fingertips right this moment, though.
Well, just a best guess estimate within $1 million or so.
Yeah.
We'll give you a wide window here.
If you give me a minute, I can search for it while we keep talking if there are other questions,
Yeah,
if that's acceptable.
yeah, that's fine.
That's fine, yeah. Well, while we're waiting, Mike, Counselor Tomlin.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And that grant, you said that this is shared between Chicopee and Holyoke, so is that all that money, Holyoke, or does that get split up? It's
The
$740.
$745,000 is all Holyoke's.
How do we compare it to other communities as far as funding? A little bit less in
Uh,
Springfield?
We
Quite a bit
try
less?
to share it equally amongst the communities. I think historically Springfield has taken a larger share because they've had more projects and more projects ready for the money to be spent on. It's fiscal year funds, so if the city didn't have any places to spend the money, it wouldn't behoove the community as a whole to accept the grant money. We did have a very large amount from the Connecticut River cleanup last fiscal year, and a lot of that went to the River Terrace project and also the Jackson Street separation project. So we're almost equal, but I know Springfield and Chicopee have probably had a little bit more. Last year, Chicopee, they actually had projects that fell through, so they weren't able to utilize all their funds, and we were able to grab a little bit more money towards the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, so the key is to having the projects ready, and we'll always have them because we have several. We'll always have the projects ready for future years for grants then, right?
Yeah, well, the projects have to be related to CSO removal.
CSLs, yeah. Okay,
Just
thank you.
For the record, to Counselor Tomlin and Mr. McManus, last year, Mike is correct on the portion, but I just want to note that last year, the city engineer, Mr. Parent, came to us with fiscal year, our share of the fiscal year 21, and told us that Holyoke had the largest share for the first time ever with this three-way city sharing. So I guess when we see Mr. Parent, it's good news, and when we see Mr. McManus, it's still good news.
I think he's got the number for you, Mike. I think he's got your number.
Okay.
Maybe. I'll write it down.
Okay.
I'm having a hard time finding the long-term control plan.
Would it be okay if you should be able to get it to us by Tuesday, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Would that be okay, Counselor Sullivan?
Oh, fine, it's just, yeah, that's fine. Mike, just the design portion, which, never mind construction, right? Just for this portion, we used some of last year's money on the design already, we're using some of this year's money on it. Do you know what just the design portion in total is gonna be?
It'll probably be around $1 million+ when it's all said and done.
Okay, and what I'm driving at here is, going forward, we have a tremendous opportunity with the ARP money. This is one of the issues to address. I'm just trying to get it out in the public, how large an obstacle we have here going forward and the timeline, that's all I'm trying to get out in public here. We need a lot more of these grants on top of what's already available. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're still looking to complete this in today's dollars even at around $30 million roughly.
Yeah, escalated to 50 million. And one thing that's in the city's favor is we do not have a hard timeline to complete this work. What we have is a draft long-term control plan into DEP and EPA. They haven't accepted or rejected the draft. The draft does have a schedule associated with it. We've tried to push it out as far as possible to spread the cost to the city and the ratepayers out over many years. So
Right.
the 30 to 50 million would be over 20 years. But when we do get these grants, we're able to advance the projects without affecting ratepayers. And like you said, the ARPA funding can be utilized for sewer infrastructure and CSO mitigation.
Yeah. The other thing I'm driving at here is, as we've seen now with global warming and everything, what they have for timelines now, going out 30 years, might not be appropriate anymore. And despite EPA and, regulations and requirements, it is something that the city may be in need of addressing on a much more timely and accelerated fashion, would you say?
Yes.
Okay.
And it also, another effect that it has on the ratepayers is when we separate the sewer, there's less flow going into the sewer and the treatment plant. So the overall treatment cost is reduced.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept the fiscal year 2022 CRCCPV PCCSO $745,000 grant.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept the $745,000 annual shared grant, with that amount going to the city of Holyoke for CSO projects as outlined. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Mike, passes with a 4-0 vote. As you know, we'll recommend to the full city council Tuesday for their approval. Do you have one more item? Are you aware of that?
Yes, item 11, I think the last.
It's item
The last
item
one.
12, but yeah, it's an order by
Okay.
Councilor Hernandez. Is Councilor Hernandez with us?
Is it 11 or 12
12.
for him?
Okay. Are you prepared to answer questions for this that we don't know what the questions are, except our own, I guess? I want you to hang around.
I could do my best in that I know we use the Everbridge system for snow. We also
If you
try
could
to
hold on-
assist.
If you could hold on for
Sue-
1 second, I'm just trying to do a little helpfulness here for everybody. It's up to the committee if you want to take this up real quick, or we can wait till we can get Councilor Hernandez in here.
Is it Jeffrey Trask?
Okay, I'm sorry. And besides Mike, we also have Jeffrey Trask present to talk on this, and Jeff Anderson Burgos did tell me that too. Would we go out of motion on this so Mike can finish up?
Yeah, I make a motion to suspend the rules and go to item number 12.
Motion made and second to suspend the rules to take up item 12 first. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 12 was introduced by Councilor Hernandez. It reads that our city ensures to provide all Everbridge announcements to our constituents in both English and Spanish in an effort to improve access to the essential services to persons with limited English proficiency. Our population consists of more than 50% Latino, indigenous descent people. A good majority are Spanish native speakers, this population being considered under the limited English proficiency known as LEP, someone who does not speak English as their primary language and has a limited ability to read, speak, and or write English at the level permits him or her to interact efficiently with English speakers or document without language assistance. Most recently, department heads have been reaching out to bilingual residents of our town that volunteer their voice and record in English, following by the Spanish verbiage of the message. However, it is not consistent, nor is there a formal procedure in place. This goes out with both languages. So it's off the table for discussion. We welcome Jeff Trask and Mike McManus, who's been with us to answer any questions. I'm afraid Councilor Hernandez is not with us this evening. And if you, gentlemen, if you're aware of the request and want to share anything with us, now would be the time. Then we can open it up for questions.
So I'll start. We use the Everbridge system for snow events. We've also used it for some paving that was done down here in the flats as part of a waterworks project. And Suez used it as well as for some street sweeping, some special street sweeping in the Pine Street area. And we feel we had better success, better cooperation with people when we had both English followed by a Spanish translation of the message. And what we were doing is working with Councilor Hernandez, where we would give her the the text of what we would want to be put out, and she would make a recording of it and get that back to us. We were able to upload that into the system and have it pushed out to the people that we needed to notify. You can do a broad citywide message through Everbridge, or you can use a GIS compatible type mapping system to select a certain area of the city, and anybody who's registered within that area would receive the message that's sent out. So we had a good success when we collaborated with Councilor Hernandez in getting those messages out.
Okay. And Jeff Trask, Jeff, you've served as the emergency management coordinator for the city on a number, I think you still are, if I'm correct, but we always appreciate hearing from you on some of the emergency announcements. Is there anything you'd like to add to this, Everbridge?
Yeah, no, I think the best way to go here would be to have some pre-recorded messages in both Spanish and English that we could have at the ready. So, I mean, it's never perfect, right? Because there's always going to be some sort of customization that's involved. But I think the more that we can prepare in advance, for some generic incidents, whether it be a power outage, a flood, a road closure. I mean, whatever. There's certain things that you can always kind of anticipate. Script them both in English and in Spanish, and then it lessens the amount of time and the amount of expertise that's needed, in the moment when you actually have to deploy those messages. And I know that, Everbridge tool, along with some of the other reverse 911 systems, will allow you to have those pre-scripted messages and pre-recorded messages available to you, so that it just reduces the amount of time in the moment in order to get those messages out quickly.
Okay. And it sounds like, and I'll certainly open this up to anyone, but it sounds like you're both in favor of the, for purposes of using Everbridge to have it in English and Spanish, for obvious reasons, as stated. Is there been any talk about improving the Everbridge announcements, the system itself? Is this come under our IT department, or does it come under the mayor's office?
Jeff, do you want to take that one, or?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Everbridge is one of probably about 4 or 5 vendors that offer a best in class solution. It's cloud hosted, right? So there's no infrastructure that's required here in the city, and that's a good thing, because if for some reason the city were to lose its critical infrastructure, its data center, its whatever, which may happen during an emergency, right? It's nice to have that cloud-based solution, which is probably hosted on a bunch of servers in different areas of the country and even the world, available to you to allow you to conduct that messaging. So it's something that is constantly being updated on the vendor's end. So it's not something we have to worry about. It's just a subscription service that we pay for and we utilize as needed. But Everbridge is, like I said, one of maybe 4 or 5, best in class, vendors that are out there that offer this service to thousands of communities and organizations across the country. So no need to update it. It's updated as part of the subscription, and it's resilient in the sense that we don't have any infrastructure for it here. It's hosted in the cloud, and something that we could access from our cell phone or from a computer, as long as you have an internet connection.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion from the committee? Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah, Jeff, just for clarity, right now, we're using Everbridge. Are there any announcements that go out that are not in both languages?
Yeah, I would defer to Mike on that one, for some of the more common usage.
Yes, we did have a few messages go out regarding street sweeping that were not translated in both languages. And we observed that when we had the translation, there was better compliance with the parking bans associated with the street sweeping.
All right, so anything else in all other emergency announcements that are going out right now are going out in Spanish? It's only street sweepings that Everbridge is falling short on? As far as I know, there's, the Board of Health has access to this and they can push messages out. The school department has something similar. I know Waterworks themselves, they have the ability to use it if there's a water disruption. So I can't speak for those other departments and how they push their messages out, but with DPW, we do try to work with Councilor Hernandez because it has been successful to get the messages out in both English and Spanish. Okay, so
One of the things I'd recommend is probably getting together with all of those interested parties and maybe just doing a quick assessment of all of the different message types that we want to send out, and then working with a resource, who is proficient in both Spanish and English in order to help us authentically translate the those messages. At least the ones, we can kind of come up with a list of probably 20 messages that are used 99% of the time. And if in some instance there is a very unique emergency that we need to respond to as part of our emergency operations center and our emergency response structure, maybe we can identify somebody who can sit in that room with us and help us prepare those messages just in time to accommodate the needs of that unique emergency. So I would say probably as soon as possible, if we can get all those players that Mike just mentioned, on a call or whatever, just to come up with that list of messaging, and then work with somebody who is familiar to the city to help us translate them and get them stored in the system so that we can use them as needed.
all right, so Everbridge then does not do the translation. They have to take our information and update it in their system. It's what we give them for recording.
Yeah, so it actually works. It works in two different ways. So you can actually do what they call text to speech. So the computer will actually take, common English text and digitize it. Do like a robot voice, or you can actually upload an actual recording. So whether it be the mayor or one of the department heads that wants to record a unique message, or a Spanish speaker, right? That's offering that same message in Spanish. The system can record it and store it as part of the message, and then it can be sent out. But as far as I know, Everbridge does not. If we were to put in Spanish text, I'm not 100% sure. Actually, I would probably bet against that it would have the ability to take that Spanish text and make a robot voice of that Spanish text. I think it's something that we probably want to do with a live person.
And the text to speech can be tricky with pronunciation of certain words where the robot voice doesn't get the correct pronunciation for the intended message.
All right, so, but as far as getting a message up with Everbridge, it's up to each individual department head to make sure that their messages are out there in both languages.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it would be. We could come up with a slate of messages. Each department could give us. Let's say, we put the word out. We have a meeting. We get all the different department heads on it, and we just ask them, okay, hey, send us your list of most common messages that you use the system for. They could, send us the text of those messages, and then we could sit down with, again, somebody who's proficient in Spanish and English, and then help, work with them to record all of those messages, load them into the system, and then that's just one less thing that, somebody has to worry about during the emergency. They can just go in and select them. But yeah, each department would be responsible for crafting the language of their message. And there's best practices, right? Every message you should be talking about, what it is, where it is, and what response you're looking for. What's the guidance to the public, right? You want to let them know what it is, where it is, and what action they need to take. So that's just kind of a basic template for any type of emergency messaging. And then there's usually some sort of you might do updates, and then at the end, you always want to do a closeout message once the incident is over. So, for each type of incident, you're probably going to have 3 messages. Like I said, the updates, again, there's going to be some customization and some just-in-time, language created. But for the most part, I think we could get the lion's share of these messages probably inputted and translated well in advance of the emergency.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? The chair will entertain a motion that this order has been complied with, and will report back the recommendation and what we heard from both our superintendent and our emergency management director, superintendent of DPW and emergency management.
Motion item number 12 has been complied with.
Second.
Motion made second. Item 12 has been complied with. We'll forward what we heard this evening back to the city council, along with the recommendation about doing some pre-recorded messages with various parties helping out. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
I have the construction.
You're welcome. Always a pleasure.
What's that, Mike?
I have the construction cost for the River Terrace
Oh. if we-
project. I was
if we
able
go
to find it.
Back to the, I don't know what,
Item 7?
item 7, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. What do you have, Mike?
$16.7 million.
Unfunded mandate from the federal government.
Government, yeah.
And Councilor Sullivan was correct. The total estimated cost for what our draft long-term control plan is $34 million and change. The Jackson Street project, just for reference, is an $8 million project. Springdale was around 9 million and change, and then River Terrace made the bulk of the rest of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All set.
And if
Thank
you
you
have-
very much again.
Thank you, Mike.
If you ever want Bob and I to come in and bore you for an hour or so with the long-term control plan, we'd be willing to do that.
The both of you are never boring.
Yeah.
You're usually very expensive, but never boring. Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Item number 8.
Motion to take item number 8 off the table for discussion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to take item 8 off the table for discussion. Under the finance chair's name, that the amount of $600 be authorized from the city solicitor department's professional services special counsel line item appropriation for fiscal year 2022 for services rendered in fiscal year 2021 that were unencumbered at the end of the fiscal year. This is off the table for discussion. I see, is there anybody here with us this evening from the city solicitor's office?
Yes, there is.
Yes,
Attorney D.
yes. Kathleen Degnan?
Welcome, Attorney Degnan.
Thank you.
Hybrid works, but hybrid, Zoom works great, but hybrid, I think, is always a problem. But we welcome you this evening, and we thank you. Kathleen, can you just run us through this? We understand money's for, paying, this year's money is paying for last year's bills, but what was the bill and what was the reason it wasn't paid last year?
Yeah, this bill is for legal services rendered in connection with workers' compensation claims for DPW. And it's my understanding the reason why you're seeing it now is that the law department just received the bill. So that's why you're getting it now and didn't get it for the proper fiscal year.
Okay. And if I could not interrupt you, but if I can jump over you, Tanya Dorjik, our city auditor. Tanya,
Yes.
was this not part of that transfer we did for the DPW at our last city council meeting?
No, actually, that was given over to the solicitor's office for payment.
Okay, so this is, but there was some stuff, if I remember correctly, of bills that there was a lot of bills that were not paid in the DPW budget last year in a timely fashion. And I thought part of it was for workman's comp. Am I wrong, or am I just mixing things together?
I can't remember because there was quite a few. But the DPW does pay for some of their own workman's comp settlements, and then the solicitor's office pays different ones.
Okay, thank you. And any further discussion or questions for Attorney Degan or our city auditor? If there's no further discussion, the chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the transfer of $600.
Second.
Motion made second to approve the transfer. I'm just going to word it a little bit different. The $600,000 for this year's monies to be used for last year's.
No,
Not 1,000, 600.
Did I said
$600,000.
$600?
You said 600,000.
I did not.
Okay, well,
Can we replay the tape? No, I'm just kidding.
We don't want to give away that much money.
What we're adopting is this year's appropriation. It's in the account that we transferred to be allowed to use for last year's last year bill. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item
Motion to take number 9 off the table for discussion for the city solicitor's office.
Second.
Motion made second to take item number 9 off the table for discussion under the finance chair's name and order that the amount of $1,291 be authorized from the city solicitor's department professional services special account for the appropriation in fiscal year 2022 for services rendered in fiscal year 2021, which were unencumbered at the end of that fiscal year. It's off the table for discussion. Attorney Degan, same thing. Could you just tell us what the bill is and why it wasn't paid?
Yes, this is for the same thing, workers' compensation claims for DPW. And this bill, which I think was put through to city council, and the bill itself, it's a little unusual to follow, but it's broken into 2 pieces. One being for legal services rendered from December 2nd, 2020 to January 4th, 2021 in the amount of $308. It's like, okay, there's that. And then there's another bill, same type of legal services rendered from November 9th, 2020 to November 30th, 2020 for an amount of $983. So if you take the 983 and add it to the 308, that's how you get to 1,291. And the reason why this one wasn't paid also is because it just came to the law department, so it's being submitted now.
Attorney Degan, can you elaborate on legal services? I think we understand workman's comp, but what would the legal services be?
Well, probably hearings. Yeah, I'm looking at the bill myself, quite frankly. Yeah, this is usually hearings before an administrative board. So I think that's what these are about. Looks like there were some phone calls made. Looks like there were a lot of phone calls made. But yeah, there was a package that was sent to the Division of Industrial Accidents. That's the board, that's the administrative body that determines workers' comp cases. So it's things like that. Drafting memos, drafting memos, making
Okay.
phone calls, appearing before board, stuff like that.
Who was the attorney that the city had hired?
Yeah, it's the law office of Albert R. Mason. He's the lawyer. Yeah.
And I know
look-
you knew, but the city solicitor office is telling us, and I think Tanya would not have let this come to us if it wasn't. This is a legitimate bill, and although it wasn't paid in a timely fashion, that it has been vetted out that these services were performed and the city does all the money to Albert Mason attorney, the office anyways. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's correct.
And Tanya, I always use your name in vain. You agree that these are legitimate bills, invoices?
Absolutely. And I do have to say that it was actually the attorney's office that, and I know that Lisa had spoke about this before, they were having a hard time keeping track of their own invoices. So this is new, since she's been here, that they've submitted these.
Okay. So even though it was because of what happened at the DPW, this was a private attorney that's used for this specialized service, and they submitted the bill late.
Correct.
I have to put it in my own words just so I can remember this, but I also anticipating questions next Tuesday. Is there any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the transfer, 1291 for services payment appropriated in 2022 for services rendered in 2021.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve this transfer for said reasons. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Passes 4-0. Attorney Dagan, I think, I'm not too sure we're going to take it up this evening. Item number 11, and I'm just asking the committee for help here. The city solicitors was invited in for this, but both Jeff Burkott, who is the president of the Labor Relations
Supervisor?
Supervisors
Association.
Association, which is recognized as collective bargaining. There are a number of questions about that introduced. I know Councilor Bartley has a number of questions, but both Mr. Burkott and the vice president of the association collective bargaining unit, Damian Cody, cannot be present. So not to hang, we have one other item, but is the committee thinking we should table this to get everybody here?
With Councilor Bartley, is that all right? Table it? I didn't get a chance to read it either yet, implicit the people really here, so.
I think if we're going to have a good discussion, everybody should be present. So
Yeah.
the chair will entertain a motion that on item number 11 tonight, we're going to table it for a future agenda.
Motion to table item 11 for a future agenda?
Second.
No discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you, Attorney Degan. We appreciate your presence as always.
Motion to
Thank
take
you very
up
much.
number 10, item 10, up the table for discussion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to take item 10 off the table for discussion under the finance chair's name, that there be and hereby appropriated by transfer in fiscal year 2022, $149,076. This is a list of line items of, for I always say Cherry Street, but it's, I'm going to say Cherry Sheet for the same purposes, but it's the personal services of the school department, $71,456. Other expenses, $34,181. Tuition assessment, SPED, $582. School choice assessment, $42,857. The total of these line items, charges are $149.76. We have it was off the table for discussion. We have our city auditor here with us this evening. The superintendent receiver, Anthony Soto, is not present this evening, but he did contact me this afternoon. And if there are any questions we can't answer from the auditor, he will be available for us next week. But I think this is I don't want to put words in your mouth, Tanya, but this is just shoring up the cherry sheet, as I call it, for the purposes of this fiscal year and coming very shortly to our balancing of the budget and setting of the tax rate, I guess, is the next steps that we have to do. Tanya, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
Just that you are correct in saying that this is just shoring up the cherry sheet, and it's the actual difference between the House budget and the conference committee. And I know that we've done these transfers in previous years as well, and through the difference, there's actually revenue that covers these expenses within the cherry sheet, but the assessments are all that needs to be appropriated.
So we're matching our charges on the cherry sheet with the actual appropriations coming from the state for these said line items. Is that correct?
Correct, plus increased revenue. So with the revenue, he has to increase his expenses as well to meet his net school spending.
Okay. And I think we're used to this now, but this is these are line items and charges and expenses as stated that normally would be voted upon by the school committee, but because of receivership, and because it is still part of the entire city budget, that the full city council votes on these items in conjunction with the receiver and the school department budget. So I guess that's just in a way of explanation of why it's before us. But is there any further discussion or any questions? Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the total of 149,076 to the city budget.
Motion made second to adopt, thus receiving the total of $149,076 and the transfer into these line items for the purposes of school department appropriations and expenses.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Stands adopted. I'm running out of items. Anybody else see anything?
I think we're out. I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made and second to adjourn. If there's no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and well done.